2 weeks later, it rained. It was a good soaking rain that covered the entire Bay Area. The temperatures started dropping into the 50s, even the 40s at night. The winter rainy season had begun. The fire danger, at least for this year, was over. Those of us who had lived in the Oakland Hills during the now famous Oakland Hills Fire were keenly aware that there were two distinct classes of people living in the Oakland Hills: those who had lost their homes and those who had not. It did not matter what your race or ethnic group was. It did not matter what your income was. Your position in the community or even your level of celebrity made absolutely no difference. If your home had been destroyed by the fire, your days and nights were now consumed dealing with it. You had to find alternative living arrangements. If you had kids, you had to figure out how to get them to school. You were negotiating with contractors, and day after day, you were entangled with government agencies, with mid-level bank executives, and with insurance companies. My God, the stories we heard about those insurance companies. During the weeks following the Oakland Hills Fire, more and more about what had happened and the extent of devastation was learned. The Tribune, the Oakland Tribune, and the other local media ran in-depth stories and retrospectives. More than 2 square miles of the most beautiful part of my city was now just a blackened scar. So the Oakland Hills Fire would remain a big story for many weeks. As the final numbers became known, I thought about that announcer on KCBS radio who was on air when the fire started on that Sunday morning. Just after 11 in the morning, she proclaimed that we had a disaster on our hands. She told us that they had just confirmed that 25 homes had been destroyed. But that was just the beginning. By the time the fire was over, 3,354 single-family homes and 456 apartment units were burned to the ground. And not just the homes, but everything in them. Over 2,000 cars were destroyed. Tens of thousands of people had evacuated, and 10,000 people were now homeless. The death toll was set at 25. At this time, the Oakland Hills Fire was the worst urban wildfire in American history. As devastating as those numbers are, they still do not shed light on how much people lost. I have always thought it odd that many people emerge from disasters, whether it be a fire or a tornado or a flood, and they tell reporters, well, we just lost material things. We can start over. Many things simply cannot be replaced. As we read some of the stories in the Tribune, we could get a small sense of the extent of personal loss. People lost treasured books, family heirlooms, sets of good china, love letters, souvenirs from vacations, beloved pets, and only God knows how many photographs. One guy lost a collection of classic cars. Yes, these are all material things, but they are part of one's life that we will never get back. The excellent reporting and the sensitive writing of the Oakland Tribune writers like Paul Grabowitz, Harry Harris, Craig Statz, and others brought this home to us. The truth is, when the Oakland police allowed people to return to the burned out home sites, it quickly became clear to them that nothing had survived. After the rains began, I took a drive along Skyline Boulevard at the top of the hills. I wanted to see it. I did not drive into the burned out neighborhoods. It just didn't seem right to do that. But I wanted to see for myself what the fire and the devil's wind had done to Oakland. From Skyline Boulevard, you could look down over extensive sections of the hills. The writers at the Tribune and the other media did a great job in describing and photographing this disaster, but nothing could prepare you for actually seeing it with your own eyes. Even after reading so many stories and watching so much television coverage of the fire, I stood looking out from one vantage point, and I was in tears. There was nothing but streets and chimneys, block after block of chimneys, thousands of them like tombstones on a battlefield. The buildings and everything in them were gone. The trees and the vegetation were gone. Life was gone. Each one of those sad chimneys had once been a home with the family. Now this part of Oakland was just a chalky gray moonscape. Thank you.